All right, Brett Hornig, we are back with the Western States 100 preview episode. How's it going?
Oh man, it's finally here. First off, before we start, the little countdown to starting the recording, it always reminds me of Wayne's World when they're getting in with the big cruise for the very first time. They're like, five, four. Like, you're nodding your heads. Stop counting. Yes. That's how I feel every time.
That may have been a deep cut reference. I'm not exactly sure the demographics of our audience. I know that a lot of folks are in that 25 to 35 age range, though. So
I think it's going to land.
On the cusp of it'll land. Okay, cool.
I sure hope so. If not, I'm going to lose faith in humanity.
Well, I guess we should start with this. It's interesting that, the center of the trail running universe, no question, is in the Lake Tahoe area because we have the Tahoe 200 going on. The Broken Arrow Skyrace series just ended, and we roll right into Western States. But I wasn't there. You were at Broken Arrow. From what I could see on social media, that race is getting super big, super quickly. There's a ton of fanfare. It's well put on. Can you talk about like what it was like to be there live in the thick of it?
It's such a fun event. I mean, the only years I haven't raced at Broken Arrow were 2018 when I ran Western States, and then this year when I'm running Western States. Other than that, though, I'm going to race Broken Arrow every year I can. They just keep one-upping themselves from the previous year, but actually in the best ways. Like they keep tweaking ways to enhance, just the fan experience regarding those who are there and those who are not. The vendor village keeps getting bigger. They keep tweaking their schedule just to make it so that there's not like any huge emphasis put on one particular day. The races themselves they keep getting bigger, which is really fun to see just the starts, and then people just continually coming in the whole time. And they do a great job with, at the end of the race, just people hanging out. Like they have a great spot to just hang out, make friends, eat food, talk about, how the day went. Even with the weather being like kind of crappy this weekend, except for Sunday, it was a blast.
Any good conversations over the weekend?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, yeah, we were Trails and Tarmac was there because we're the coaching sponsor for the race. So we had a booth set up at the village. So yeah, definitely talked with a lot of people. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm sure if I think about it longer, like there will be a couple that stand out. But I just got back last night. Still unwinding from the race. Haven't even unpacked my stuff. But
don't unpack it. Don't unpack it because you're about to head right back out the door to Western States.
I have to do some laundry, and I got to repack and then head back out again on Thursday. But yeah, I mean, and Eric Schranz was up there calling the races and announcing all the finishers coming in for 3 days straight. With the second and third days, he was up there for like 12 hours, like screaming at people coming in. I have no idea how anyone can do that.
I think one thing we should talk about before we get into the details of Western States, while you were having nice, humane, fulfilling, in-person social experiences, I was being a keyboard warrior on Twitter over the weekend. And one of the debates we had was whether all of the coverage around like Western States, for example, is getting too saturated. And one of the questions posed is, is there too much hype around Western States? Is there too much media around Western States? I have a pretty strong opinion on it, but I'm curious what your initial reaction is there, knowing that you probably weren't logged into Twitter and you were, doing what we should be doing, which is having fulfilling, contextual in-person interactions.
Well, I mean, so the very first thought that came to mind was like, has there ever been a year where the hype leading up to the race was way more hype than the actual excitement of the race? Or has the race each of these years like pretty much over delivered any amount of hype that was built up? Because I feel like every single year it's always really exciting, and like there's all this hype for the race. I'm like, wow, that race was excellent. So I'm not sure if maybe it'll happen at some point, but I feel like we're not even close to the amount of hype for this race to oversaturate.
Yeah, I feel like the day that we can entertain that conversation is the day there's a dedicated TV and internet channel to 24/7 ultra running coverage with like 4 or 5 eerily similar talk show style, banter style, mediums out there. But until then, I feel like we're still building up, and I don't know. I think it's good. I think we need it, but
I think so too. I mean, this is the race. This is the race that I don't know. I think needs to be talked about right now. I mean, it's the most competitive race in the U.S. this year. Will there be another race this competitive in the U.S. later this year? Maybe, maybe not. But for right now, this is the next big one.
And I think it's super cool that we're starting to build around Western States too. So it's not like this one and done thing, but now we're seeing the entire couple of weeks before Western States build up around Broken Arrow. We're going to start seeing more stuff, I predict, build up around the Speed Goat 50K, which is like 3 weeks after Western States, not to mention Hard Rock. So it's cool that we're going to be able to fill in the gaps too, as these races get more resources and more media and, high caliber athletes traveling to them to race. So I don't know. This is all just a super exciting transitory period for our sport, I think. And anyways, I feel like we could just stir the pot there all day, but should we set the agenda here for this preview episode?
Yeah. Let's give a little rundown about what we want to cover regarding Western States kind of preview and predictions.
So what I got here is, I think we want to address first what we think makes the race difficult, what poses a unique challenge for competitors out there. Of course, we want to talk about what it takes to win, and based on the research we've done, how people have generally had success approaching the course year in and year out. And then I think we'll get into analysis around our women's top 10 and our men's top 10. And then I think along the way, if anything comes to mind, we'll bring it up. But that's the agenda, so let's do it.
Then you get to make better fueling decisions. You get to make better cooling decisions. You don't neglect changing your socks because you're a little bit bonky and you're frantically trying to make it through an aid station.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, you talked about fueling being the number one factor there. And I was just rewatching the Tom Evans Western States documentary that Adidas made, I think, or Red Bull. And one of the things he mentions is he ran the entire race 15 hours on liquid calories. And I'm pretty sure that Magda did that as well in 2017 or 18, whichever year she won the race. And
so did Jim.
And so did Jim. And
last year.
And I want to say David Roche and Megan Roche talked about this too. So maybe I heard it there, but it's fascinating that they're doing that because that strategy is so closely tied to your hydration. Like if you've messed up your hydration and all of your fueling intake is based on liquid, that's a fine line that you're riding, and you have to really stay on top. Yeah, again, really stay on top of hydration in a race that is infamous for really making runners suffer in that category.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And fueling solely with calories is, I would say, pretty new.
Liquid, you mean?
Liquid, not calories. They're all calories. Fueling with liquid successfully and properly is somewhat new to, it seems like, the running and ultra world. I mean, I know I've heard some stories about people like mixing Vitargo to the consistency of pancake batter and having, 1,000-calorie bottles, but
right.
That doesn't quite hit like the correct science behind it actually being a liquid. But just with all the new kind of just advancements in fueling tech, some of these companies like like Martin, they're definitely the big player right now. Like they've figured out how to cram more grams of carbohydrates, per fluid ounce of water and still have your stomach, perceive it as liquid and not food, essentially. Better than what they've been able to do in the past. And that comes down to, specific types of carbohydrates, and the ingredients and, the ratios. So, it kind of makes sense for a race like Western States. If, like I listened to another podcast, I think it was with Sweat Elite. Jim was like, well, I drink, when it's hot, I drink 40 ounces an hour.
Yeah.
Anyways, why not throw the Martin 160 packs in each bottle? And now I'm consuming 40 ounces, 320 calories worth of maltodextrin and fructose, as well as 800 milligrams of sodium per hour, and just do that as long as I can.
You want to talk about some of our favorite storylines for the race?
Well, the field, it's been a while since like the returning champs on both the men's and women's sides aren't returning.
How long?
I think, it was the year Ryan Sands
17
won, I think 2017.
17. So 5 years.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we get to crown like two new champions. I guess Casey is in the race and has won before, but it wasn't last year. So I think we get a pass for this factoid. So that's really exciting. We're going to get two new champions. There's a lot of people in the elite field that I have like written down as, potential top 10 or top 5s that this will be their Western States debut. I would have to like really dive deep into, the number of people from all the previous years, but this year just feels a little bit, feels like there's some fresh blood in the water,
For me, there's a couple, and maybe I can rattle them off and then we can dive into them. But I think you mentioned it earlier, the fact that on the men's side, at least, there is no sort of guardian angel of the front of the pack who, if you follow them, there's a good chance you're going to notch a top 10. You could argue someone like Alex Nichols, if you follow that guy all race, you're going to get there. Tim Tollefson, similar. But historically, like your Ian Sharmans, your Jeff Brownings, your Mark Hammonds aren't there. I think the fact that there's a vacuum at the top, so there's no Jim Walmsley in the race, there's no Courtney Dauwalter. You always wonder if there's going to be new course records. So is the weather favorable enough for Ellie Greenwood's record to go down? Is someone like Ruth Croft strong enough to take that? Is a male runner going to go sub 14 hours? So where do you want to start there?
I don't think a course record's going to get set on either side this year.
How come?
If you had asked me this question 10 days ago, I would have said maybe, because the extended forecast had shown a high of like 89 in Auburn, with the previous 4 or 5 days being cooler. So the preheating of the canyons is a real thing. So that's one of the main reasons why last year's race was so brutal. There's been years where the highs, the high in Auburn was around 100 or so last year. But what made the race really difficult was the previous like 4 or 5 days, the low on the middle section of the course only got down to about 70 degrees. So the ground stayed very warm. So then on race day, when the sun did pop up, the canyons were already preheated and they got scorching temps, earlier than other years in the past.
And this year, you're seeing a similar thing happen?
This year, it's starting to heat back up again. So I'll go to my handy-dandy Google Weather app. And right now, they're saying high in Auburn is now 96 for Saturday. And it's crept up, with the days prior to that being, in the 90s. And the low in Auburn, low to mid 60s. But that's a fair amount warmer than it showed, 4 or 5 days ago. So it's going to feel hot. I don't think it's really going to lend to 14 hours. Or, Ellie's record of 16:40. I don't have it written down. I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, it'll just simply because there are people racing. Mm. If someone goes and tries to time trial it, I don't think it's going to work.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously in that case, weather is going to play a major influence on performance. Do you think that on both the men's and the women's side, the best pure runner in the field is also going to be the winner of the race?
No. I think the one who is pretty good at running, but really good at making smart decisions is going to be the one that's going to win the race. I don't know if has anyone really just like faked their way to a Western States victory by being simply just very good at running. I just think the race is too long for that.
Faked their way. That's a good question to think about.
It's like you can do it. You can do it in a 50. You can muscle your way through a 50K where you can be like pretty bonked in the last 25-30%, and it's really bad for you. And I don't recommend doing that. But you can kind of muscle your way through some of these shorter ultras, and people even do it in like 50 miles and 100Ks. But 100 mile, I think, is just a little bit too long, where you do have to have practiced the fueling, the hydrating, the keeping cool, and that's all aspects that are really important, as long as to go along with being really fit.
Let me ask you this: do you think that, for example, back in 2016, when Jim missed his turn at mile 93, do you think he was muscling his way through that race, or, as Cole Watson might argue, he was just running at his fitness for that distance? And I'm curious what you think there.
Well, I think he was running too hard. He was time trialing. He was trying to time trial the course to a course record. He was not racing anyone at that point other than the ghost of Timothy Olsen and his course record. And the missed turn at 93, that wasn't the first mistake that he made. The first big mistake that he made was trying to swim across the river, not holding the ropes. And I didn't realize that until looking at it later. It's like, okay, he was already so zoned in on just, the 5 feet in front of him, in regards to his running, that he was no longer paying attention to some of the other parts, whether it's fueling or hydrating. Like, he was too locked in on just trying to hit splits. And even if he doesn't miss that turn, I don't think the course record falls that day, just with the amount of time he was starting to give up past the river.
Any other storylines that stick out to you?
Adam Peterman is, the big question mark on the men's side, and Camille Herron is like the big question mark on the women's side to me, of just like, how are these people going to do? They're two completely different storylines, but kind of both equally big question marks. Adam, this is his first 100 mile. His last race was his first 100K. Camille she's a Hall of Famer. She's got the world record. She's got multiple world records across like 12 hour, 24 hour, 100 mile. She's won comrades, has yet to really nail the mountain race. And I would consider Western States a mountain race. How is she going to do? How much has she dedicated her training towards learning how to navigate climbing and descending?
I have some, one thing I want to commend her on is, I think she finished the race last year, right? So she did. She
gutted that out.
Yeah, that deserves a ton of credit. She gutted out the race. She finished it. I think that the example of Camille, who, like you said, fully agree here, Hall of Famer, incredible athlete, one of the GOATs. Maybe it's an example of, even if you're an excellent runner, that ability doesn't translate across all running disciplines. And it could be the case that true mountain running just isn't her forte. We'll talk about it.
Totally.
We'll talk about it later in the prediction section, but I don't have her in my top 10.
Physiologically, it's super different. Just, running flat for 17 or 16 hours versus running up and down hills for 17 hours.
Yeah.
Running on single track, having to really actually think about where your feet are landing. Like, those are all just little bits that, yes, it's still running, but it's different running.
I wish that, we've had on the long run archives, we've had who we wish we could see the training logs for. I wish we could see the training logs for Camille, because from what we know, she puts in a ton of volume. She has a coach, very disciplined, but she races often too. And I think famously recovers quickly for her next thing. I would love to have seen what this build for Western States looks like and how it compared to previous builds in all the other years she was getting ready for Western. She's an awesome, very entertaining storyline for this race, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I also want to know, what's the strategy for Saturday? Are we going out at just course record pace? Are we just going to try and win the whole thing?
Yeah.
Outright? Or are we going to go at, maybe what perceived 100-mile Western States pace is? Yeah, I have so many questions, and I guess we will find out.
Should we go into the men's and women's fields predictions?
I'm ready.
All right. You want to lead us with give us your top 10, but analyze your top 5.
Okay. All right. I'll list out my top 5, in the order of finishing
go 10.
place that I'm predicting.
You want to go 10?
Okay. I'll go all 10. I can do it. It's a lot of names. So I think Ruth Croft is going to win Western States this year. She's my one. And then Katie Asmuth is going to get second. Leah Yingling for third. Brittany Peterson fourth. Keely Henninger fifth. Casey Lichtag for sixth. Emily Hoggood for seventh. Aroa Seo for eighth. Taylor Nowlin for ninth. And Lucy Bartholomew to round out the top 10.
Okay. I have one question there. Who's just outside your top 10 that you struggled with?
I had Lucy and Camille Bruyas and Marianne Hogan. I picked Lucy because she has the most experience on the course. She's already been over in the States and on the course a bunch. We ran for a few miles during the first Western States training camp day. She knows the course really well. She knows kind of just what it takes at all aspects of the course. So she gets points for just having that veteran savvy.
She seems like she's mentally tapering too, which I think is very overlooked in our sport.
Mm-hmm. That's also why I have Casey in my top 10, even though I know she hasn't had the smoothest buildup for the race. The last year of running, there's been some injury struggles. But one thing I do know is that she's very good at staying calm, keeping her cool, just running her thing and staying steady. And I think that's going to pay off this weekend.
You said that a women's course record is not going to happen in this race, which is interesting because I think Ruth Croft, in at least certain scenarios, has the ability to do that. And I'm curious what you think about what you think is going to happen for her on race day. And is she the only one, in your opinion, I guess maybe Camille as well, who could threaten that record at the very least?
I think Ruth Croft does have a potential course record run in her, but is it at the expense of like not finishing the race or not winning? I'm not sure. I mean, I think winning the race is more cooler than setting a course record.
I think she would agree. She wants to compete.
Yeah, like I would rather win an Olympic gold than set a world record, but not have an Olympic gold. And yeah, it seems like that's kind of how Ruth approaches most of her trail racing. And I don't know if there's anyone else in the field. Brittany Peterson has run very fast because there was the 2019 year with her and Claire Gallagher.
Yep.
Just balling out at the end, like throwing bows going through pointed rocks at mile 95. Just like tornado through the aid station was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. She knows how to, compete late in the race. And it was a sub 18 time. It was fast. Will there be, a group of people that, creep into Ellie Greenwood's like course record splits for how the weather's looking this weekend? I just don't think so.
What time do you think wins the race this year?
Ooh, that's so tough. I guess looking at like current weather forecasts, I think it'll be in like the 1730, 1740 range.
Who's exciting you the most in this field? Just like on race day, if you were following the Twitter feed, you'd just be excited to see the way they run.
I'm really excited to see how many people Leah passes in the second half.
Me too.
She's a really smart racer. I mean, I was out there at the canyons and just like saw how steady she was and just like blitzed the last third of the course. I think if she takes that same approach, which I'm sure she will, she's just smart and has been on like a pretty steady upward trajectory over the last like 5 or 6 years of her, trail and ultra running career. This is her first Western States, right? But she has prior 100-mile experience, 2 pretty good runs at the Canyons 100K. So, I'm excited to see like the Twitter feeds of, like Leah's moved into the top 10, past 2 more people, 8, 6, like, however high that goes. That'll be exciting.
I think the only other question I have for you for the women's field, do you think that success at UTMB deserves any factoring into how they'll perform at Western States? Because you have a couple people like, I think, Camille Bruyas, who's podiumed at UTMB. I think Liza Bueller has just missed a podium at UTMB in recent years past. Is there any reason to count those performances for prediction potential here at Western States?
I think there used to be, but there's not. I don't think it's as important anymore as this sport gets more and more specialized. I'm sure there are still going to be those people, the hyper elite that can be on the podium of both UTMB and Western States. But, I think with how competitive these races are getting for most of the other top contenders, like you're going to be good at UTMB or you're going to be good at Western States because they're very different. So I'm not sure, especially with, it's going to be kind of warm this year.
Yeah. I'm also curious. I know that we don't have the numbers in front of us, but I would love to run a report on the number of competitive Euros that have come over to this race in the last 10 years and just generally calculate how they fared. Like what percentage of them have, raced themselves into the top 20 or the top 10 year after year. just based on, and I guess I'm interested in that because like, yeah, they come from that true mountain running scene, the UTMBs, the Istrias, the Golden Trail Series, etc. So I don't have that in front of me, but maybe we look into that for future races because I think
it's definitely, it's very possible for sure. I mean, look at the ladies' top 10 last year. I mean, Beth Pascal, Ruth Crofts from New Zealand, Ragna Debatz, and Audrey Tanguy.
Yep.
All not American, and that was in the top 6.
It's a big investment for them to come over here in the same way it's a big investment for our runners to go to Chamonix every year, you know?
Yeah. And, like Beth spent a lot of time, over here running the course and crushed canyons and learned it and, lived it. Same, I think, Ruth is spending more time on the course.
Brittany Peterson spent a ton of time on the course.
And that definitely helps, if you're able to go around the course and just learn it and be comfortable on it. That's huge.
I also wish we had numbers we could easily reference for the percentage of people that spent at least 3 days on the Western States course in the calendar year lead up to the race. So not just Memorial Day training weekend, but like maybe they went there during April break or, just sometime in the spring in the lead up. Is that in any way an indicator of success on race day, or does it hurt? Like I thought you brought up a good point. Like, does the speed at which you run all those training day runs, Memorial Day weekend, like, does that have any impact on how likely you are to like drop out or something like that?
That would be a fascinating dive to go into, is like the correlation between effort and training day and success at Western States. I think being able to spend time on the course is a benefit if you can make it not special and not exciting.
Yep.
Like, you got to be able to get on the course and not be in awe that you're on the Western States course, and you can't think too much about the history and the greatness that have covered these trails while you're in the training runs. You could save that for the race, but if you that's exhausting and way too exciting for a training run on the course. If you can just treat it like a trail, that's where you get the most benefit.
Yep. All right, I'm going to give you my top 10.
All right, let's hear it.
Number 1, Ruth Croft. Number 2, Keely Henninger. Number 3, Camille Bruyas. Number 4, Marianne Hogan. 5, Leah Yingling. 6, Anne-Marie Madden. 7, Emily Hawgood. 8, Ailsa McDonald. 9, Katie Asmuth. 10, Liza Bueller. So there's a lot of Canadians and Euros in there.
You have a super international top 10.
Super international top 10. And then super, if you're an American, you have invested a lot of time on the course this spring, and or you are a veteran of the race. So, for example, you brought up Leah. Leah raced canyons, obviously had a textbook golden ticket performance there, which just shows how just expert she is at executing races, which is a skill. I think it's trainable, but she works at it. I think also I'm really excited about Keely Henninger. I put her in that second spot because it's been so clear to me how much she's dedicated her running to this race in the last 6 months and beyond. Like I distinctly remember her making Instagram posts and Strava posts about how I'm either going to drop out of this race or I'm going to go down in distance because, if I was to race the 100K here, or if I was to do this training run at this point in the block, it wouldn't make sense for Western. So she's very much doing everything in her power to peak for this race. That's evident to me. And obviously she has the track record of being a great runner when that happens. So people like that among the Americans. And there are some question marks for me too, like Marianne Hogan. I think she's an incredibly talented runner. She blew away the Bandera field. Leah Yingling was in that race.
She destroyed
it on a tough day, on a tough course. And then like 2 months later, she ran like a mid 240s marathon, which is also incredibly impressive. But I think she's been hurt a lot, like late in the spring. I know she was at Memorial Day training camp weekend, though, did you get any sense of how she looked there and if she's...
I guess she was leading the group that Leo was in, and Cole Watson and I kind of joined them for like the middle part of the run.
Okay.
And, you know, it was the two main canyons, like Devil's Thumb and El Dorado. And she was kind of the one, you know, just kind of leading and controlling the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Super comfortable.
Okay.
Like chatting, it was a long run, you know, it really didn't seem like she was going hard.
Gotcha.
At all. And, you know, we weren't going slow. So I was like, yeah, she seems like she's in pretty good shape right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if that's the case, I'm even more excited about her. Also very excited about Ailsa McDonald. I had a chance to have her on the pod. She spends like 4 months of the year with her partner in Arizona. So like she's heat training from like December through March. I know she's based up in Canada the majority of the year, but she comes down to the American Southwest to get ready for races like this. She's done a bunch of those Aravaipa races in the lead up. She's done some triathlon stuff too. Like I think that her last big effort before Western States was a triathlon. Like she, you know, so very interesting. She's also raced her way into Western States twice now. She had a golden ticket, I think, at Black Canyon 4 years ago, and then had like I think she had like a 13th overall at Western States, and then raced her way back in at Bandera in 2020. Got blocked at the border because of the pandemic last year, so she missed it. So she's here because of that.
Okay. So
I think she could be great too.
Yeah. Tell me more about Camille Bruyas.
So I got my UTMB blinders on. I was out in Chamonix last year. I actually got to see a lot of her race in person just as a spectator out on the course, and looked super strong, and obviously ended up podiuming. And I just think I have that bias in me that if you can do well at that race, it can translate to, you know, not quite mountain races, but ultras like Western. So, that one is kind of a shot in the dark.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's not too analytical though. So if people are looking for like X's and O's data on why I think that, it's more just like a gut pick.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's not someone like Leah Yingling who's been on the course, or Emily Hawgood, who I know has been on the course quite a bit, and then obviously has experience on this circuit.
And is rested this year.
That's huge.
She had an insane 2021 of racing leading up to Western States, and then ultimately also getting 10th at UTMB.
A couple notables. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, surely just not having had to do 3 golden ticket races before Western States will help her out.
Yeah. I should mention 3 women that are just outside my top 10 or just weren't included that, you know, I think are excellent runners and very well could and should prove me wrong. Dominika Stelmach, who got second place at the Black Canyon 100K. It's very clear to me that either she likes the time trial or she likes to race in addition to being a talented runner. And I just saw her fade slowly at Black Canyon, and Claire Gallagher, who won that race, just surge ahead and run in kind of like a Leah fashion and close well. I just wonder, given that type of racing I saw at Black Canyon, does she learn a lesson there or rein it in for Western and run just a more conservative race? Because it seems like she's got the speed and the talent, or does she succumb to that again here, like a lot of elite runners do? And then Brittany Peterson, this is a tough one for me. I know she didn't have a great race at Canyons 100K, but you know, she dropped out.
Yeah.
She's put a ton of time in on the course this spring, and obviously she's put in great results other years.
She's got a new coach.
AJW, who is, you know, got a PhD in Western States, but I don't know. For some reason she just falls outside my top 10. And then Camille, I'll probably get a lot of flack for including from Camille that she's not in the top 10, but I don't have her there, and I really hope she proves me wrong, because like I said, I got the utmost respect, and I think she's one of the GOATs, and when it comes to roads and tracks, nobody's better.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's exactly why I also left her out of my top 10, is because I haven't seen it yet for the mountains. Maybe had there been like a couple shorter mountain races in the build up to Western States, but instead it was, jackpot 100 and then another like 6 hour, more time trial type event over in Europe.
By the way, we're going to log these on Free Trail, right? We're going to make these are our Free Trail picks too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty locked in. I can't think about it anymore because I could change them a million different ways.
Shout out Free Trail. Shout out Fantasy Ultra Running. We're making our picks there. Yeah. Should we go to the men's? I'll give you my men's.
I think so. I think we're ready. I'm just kind of looking through the last of my thing. Oh yeah, I mean, I think my one of my dark horses on the lady side. I did have her in the top 10, but Taylor Nallen, she's a very consistent racer and does not get enough credit for that. Like if you look at her ultra sign up, her worst result in like 6 years of racing ultras is 9th.
I'm also a huge fan. One thing I'll add there is I think she brings some intangible toughness to the race too. Anybody who is a full-time nurse in addition to being an ultra runner, there's a lot of benefits to that. I think you probably do really well managing stress given the type of job it is. There's a lot of time on feet there, so you're applying the Jeff Colt philosophy to ultra running training. That I should have acknowledged her. She's someone who I think very well could prove me wrong and be in that top 10. That's a great one. Yeah,
totally. Let's move on to the men's race.
All right, here's my top 10. Drum roll, please. That was terrible. But anyways, Tim Tollefson for the win. Adam Peterman, number 2. Cole Watson, number 3. Tom Owens, 4. Scott Traer, 5. Sebastian Speller, 6. Rod Farvard, 7. John Rea, 8. Tyler Green, 9. Jeff Colt, 10. And I'm just going to give you the people that I have left off there that are heavy hitters. So,
yeah, you left out a lot of names.
I left out a lot of names. The 3 that I should acknowledge. The first is someone I admire deeply, who I think ran one of the gutsiest races ever. And I just love because he has the soul of a true competitor, and that is Drew Holman. I think that guy's the absolute man. I had him in the pre-race interview series, and that's just somebody who, if he was in Salt Lake, I'd want to be like best friends with that guy. He's awesome. But, I just know what he went through last year to get that top 3. And I really hope he proves me wrong. But like mentally, I just don't know if if he can replicate that again. And it's a deep field. Missing Hayden Hawks, obviously. And I have not listened yet to his Billy Yang interview. I saw a short clip, and he was giving this like impassioned speech to Billy about everything he's done in training to prep for this race, and just how ready he is and how he's here to win. I think because of that, I don't know. I just see the wheels falling off. I put him in that Camille camp. And then Alex Nichols. I mean, I shouldn't be betting against this guy because he's, one of the last examples of, sorry, I got a burp there. The Jeff Brownings in the field and the Ian Charmans in the field, but he's gone. So I don't know. You
also left out Cody Lind.
I left out Cody.
M4 from last year.
M4. I left out Cody Lind from last year too. Yeah, I mean, talk about, Western States pedigree. His whole family is deeply embedded in the race, and he's done nothing but shown consistency in his career. I don't know. A lot of these I picked from the gut, but I don't know. Pick this apart. What do you think? What do you think about my top 3, top 5?
I mean, so yeah, kind of like you said, like talking about Drew, I saw like he used all of it last year, everything. Then it's only been 1 year. That might not be enough time. Yes, I don't know if that's enough time. It's still pretty fresh in your mind, like what that took, and like that's hard. Like I ran states 4 years ago. That's the perfect amount of time of like survivor's amnesia, where I'm just like, oh, I'm ready to do it again. I'm ready to tackle it because I've kind of forgotten like how much misery I think I was actually in, and I remember like it was really hard, but. It's been far enough away where I'm like really ready to take a crack at it again, like year after year, just to go that deep. That's tough. That's really hard.
What do you think about the top three there? So it's Tollefson, Peterman, and Cole Watson. I know that you are great friends with Cole. You've shared many miles with him. Can you actually, you know what? You should recount that story of a training run you did with him. You were talking like heart rate and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was the first day of the Western States training run where you start at Robinson Flat and go down to Forest Hill. And I mean, I know Cole and we've run so much together, and it's always been more like he runs with me. I don't run with him, because if I had to run with him, I would be all out from like the get-go. The dude's just so strong. So he was graciously running with me, and it was breezy, a little chilly at Robinson Flat. And there's a little climb to start to get out of Robinson Flat, and then you descend for like 12 miles before hitting Devil's Thumb. And we were running with a group of people, and we're going maybe 7:30 pace, and Cole is just freezing this entire time. And it's not that cold anymore. It's a little more protected. And like after about an hour, like he still has like his sleeves wrapped up over his hands and everything. I'm like, Cole, how hard are you working right now? He's like, I feel fine. I'm like, what is your heart rate right now? And he looked at it, and like he wears a heart rate monitor, so I trust the validity of this. And he looks at it, and he's like, oh, it's 94. And I was just like, I just stopped and was like, I'm done here. So that showed just a bit of like the efficiency that Cole has running, at like 100 mile, like runnable 100-mile effort. And it's not like he just has a very low heart rate, like when he does VO2 max or threshold workouts, it gets up to 180. So he's just in very good shape right now. The biggest question mark is just the kind of lack of 100-mile racing experience. He just did Javelina last year, and that was his first 100 miles. So even though while he's trained, he lives out by the course and he's run every inch of it and he knows it like the back of his hand. The big kind of X factor that will still come into play is just it will be the longest he's run in terms of time on feet. And when that's, something new like that, there's always just more room for unaccounted error.
Setting aside results just for a second, which category of talent do you put him in? Like what runners do you compare him to in our sport?
I mean, I put Cole in the Hayden Hawks, Jim Walmsley, Adam Peterman type group, in that they're all kind of mid to upper tier Division I collegiate runners. I don't think any of them were really like close to like winning an NCAA title, but they're all good enough where, you're getting some scholarships. The coaches are paying attention to you. And that definitely takes an amount of just talent to have. And then if you compare that with also being a hard worker like he is, like, Adam and Jim and Hayden are, that can create some pretty extravagant performances out on the trail.
One thing I'll add about Cole, bringing back that phrase mental taper again, when I talked to him in the pre-interview, it sounded like he was doing a pretty good job of turning inward. And there's this great quote, being present in the race hinges on the ability to be present pre-race. And I definitely felt like, he was just coming down nicely from a good body of hard work for this race and just being very self-conscious. And I mean that in a good way of what he needed to do on race day, but also what he needed to do in these last 7 to 10 days pre-race. So that's why I got him in my top three, because I think he, not to do a little drop here for Trails and Tarmac, but I think he totally believes in the tactical approach to Western States. I'll put it that way. And, given the legs on him, I think he can make up a lot of ground for however conservative he goes out in the first half.
Totally. Yeah. I was kind of hoping that you were going to say you thought Adam Peterman was going to win, just so I could throw this little deep history tidbit at you, but I'm going to do it anyways. So if Adam Peterman wins Western States, he will win Western States in his debut 100-mile.
Has that ever happened?
So I got to thinking, has that ever happened? And I just started clicking. I started from the most recent, where I just looked on the men's side. So it might have happened sooner on the ladies' side. But I had to go back to 1986, and now we're getting to the point where it's like getting difficult to confirm this.
Yeah.
But 1986 to now, I was able to find the winner of every single Western States from 1987 to now had run a 100-mile prior to winning Western States. I got back to Chuck Jones of 1986, and on their ultra sign-up, at least with all the archived results, Western States was his first 100-mile.
Wow. There's our stat of the week.
So if Adam were to win Western States, it would be the first time this has happened on the men's side since 1986. And that was a long time ago. There's most of the people on our favorites list were not alive in 1986.
Man, I wish that we had like ESPN's resources to have like a full-time statistician here. Because another question I have is, how many golden ticket winners in a given year have gone on to secure a place in the top 10 on race day? Because I'm looking here, I have 4 golden ticket winners in this year's men's projected top 10. I got, let's see, Adam Peterman, I have Jeff Colt, I've got Rod Farvard, and I've got John Rea. So 40% of my top 10 is golden ticket winners from this past year on the men's side. On the women's side,
that's 3.
Yeah, I got Leah, I've got Anne-Marie Madden, I've got Ailsa. So I've got so 7 out of my 20. And I'm curious, it'd be fun to like go back and look at the last 10 years, like of the last 10 years of top 10s, men's and women's sides, how many golden ticket winners have gone on to get a top 10 spot. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. You got to get an intern.
Do you take issue with anybody in my top 10? So just to restate the remaining 7 here, we got Tom Owens in 4, Scott Traer 5, Sebastian Speller 6, Farvard 7, John Rea 8, Tyler Green 9, Jeff Colt 10.
What makes you think Tom Owens is going to place so high?
I think I have my UTMB blinders on again there. Let me pull up Western States 100 ultra sign up. I'm gonna pull up his just the men's. I am gonna pull up his ultra sign up here. So last year he got a 4th at UTMB, 22 hours. Eiger Trail 6th. Whiteface. He's just been super successful at all of these. He's
consistent. Yeah.
He's super consistent and successful at all of these like true mountain running ultras. So I guess now that I really look at it, he's never had a race as specific to Western States.
But that might be all right.
I just don't want to count out these Euros. Like I feel like in previous years, I've just, before this podcast existed, and I was just like making picks just to make it fun. Like I always would discount Ryan Sands coming in and winning the race or getting second or third. And without having the data in front of me, I just have this assumption that Euros come over here. They're pretty serious. They're focused in, and they take care of business.
Yeah, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can respect your Seb's Failer in the top 10.
I've seen him race. I saw him race the same. Go ahead.
He's smooth.
He's smooth.
He's a smooth runner.
I saw that guy at the 2019 North Face 50 San Francisco, and he was in the medic tent for 3 hours after that race. He went to the well. I mean, that race that day hurt a lot of people, but he went to the well the same way Drew Holman did. Drew Holman had a great race there too, and I just think he can gut these things out too. So I'm excited about him.
I believe this will be his 100-mile debut.
It will be. So that's another. Yeah, there are some.
Yeah. So you've got Seb and Adam, 100-mile debuts
in the top 10.
In the top 10.
Yep. I think I want to say this is Jeff Colt's.
Changing of the guard.
I think this is Jeff Colt's. No, it's not. It's not his. But
no, I think he's done.
He's got Run Rabbit and I'm Tough.
That's right.
John Rea though. I think maybe John Rea. I don't know. I like John Ray the same way.
There's a lot
I
of
like
names.
Marianne Hogan. Yeah, there's a lot of names. All right, well, let's go to yours.
It's
We've talked enough about mine. Let's hear your top 10.
For sure. Yeah, I guess just a like finishing thought on like picking these top 10s. I think I've said this with Cole. I think we said it when we were running. We're like, there's 25 guys and 25 women who are fit enough to win the race.
And they're all peaking for it.
Once the gun goes off, half of them will either blow up to a like plus 24-hour time or drop out. Of the remaining half, which we're now down to like 12, half of them will fade. So now we're down to 6. Of those 6, 3 of them will have great days. 3 of them will have good days.
Yep.
That's the in a nutshell Western States elite breakdown.
All right, let's hear your top 10.
Which makes picking the top 10 so hard. So, like yourself, I have Tim Tollefson is winning the race. I think this is his year. A name that you omitted that I am throwing in there. I think Jared Hazen's going to get second.
How did I miss him?
I know that was because I was meant to ask you why not Jared, but I've got Jared Hazen second, Adam Peterman to round out the podium, Tyler Green in 4th, Alex Nichols in 5th, Hayden Hawks 6th, Cole Watson 7th, Drew Holman 8th, Rod Farvard 9, and Cody Lind 10.
Okay, the reason I omitted Hazen is because he's been Strava Dark, and he's been injured in the past. I don't know if he's either just going like full-on monk mode and, you know, disengaging from social media, disengaging from the public, and just like focusing on the work, which if he is, that's awesome. Huge respect, tip of the hat. But
I think the Strava Dark is a Jason Koop strategy.
Oh, really?
I'm going to just think that, you know, maybe they talked about it and we're like, let's get off running social media so we can go all in on your new training and no one can see what you're doing and how different it is from what you've done in the past.
Is it possible to peak on training peaks, or is that like just between the coach and the athlete?
I think it's mostly private, like mostly between coach and athlete, but maybe we're going to have to outsource this question to the general public of where in the world is Jared Hazen and what's he been up to?
I sent him a DM.
And I'm just assuming.
I sent him a DM on IG, so we'll see if he gets back to us. But if he's healthy, then my top 10 gets rearranged. But I'm going off body of work for Strava. And
I have Adam in 3rd, which I guess if we're just looking at the stats of Adam Peterman and running ultras, he will win and set the course record because that's what he's done with everything that he's run. But this is also the most competitive race that he's done, and it's also the longest he's done by 40 miles. It's also the hottest race he's done, and those are a lot of challenges, and I think he's going to perform well amidst those challenges, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win the whole thing. I think next year, if he chooses to do so, he could learn from this year and then really use that to go all in on it, because he doesn't have to race Chuckanut. He doesn't have to race the canyons. He can fine tune everything for Western States next year, but he's only had 8 weeks to, really even think about Western States and go in on it. And he's got a lot of great mentors and coaches, in his corner, but an amount of this equation is also just experience.
I bet against Adam at Canyons. I think I said he was going to get 4th place or off the podium, and obviously was proven unbelievably wrong. And I feel like even picking him second here. And are you picking him second too?
I had him third. Tim, Jared, Adam.
I feel like even picking him on the podium could be selling him short, but it'll be fascinating to see what he does.
Yeah, and then my trails and tarmac bias has Tyler and Alex coming in probably pretty close to each other, because I bet their race plans will be somewhat similar, in that they've both been kind of hard closers in the past in terms of how they race. They've also both have second places at Western States to their name. The only reason I don't have them higher is because I do think, while this race isn't necessarily about time, I think Tim, Jared, and Adam have maybe a potential higher ceiling in terms of the fastest they could go on this course than some of the other people in the field. And, maybe that slightly hotter pace at the beginning is going to make it hard for, Tyler or Alex to close all the way up to the podium without having to roll the dice a little bit more in the first half of the race.
Are you predicting any drops in this race?
Oh yeah. I mean, I haven't said like, I don't really like thinking so-and-so is going to drop out. I guess I frame it more like they'll blow up, but still finish honorably. But yeah, there's always tons of dropouts. And some of them are just due to bad luck. Many of them are due to, poor decision making in the first half of the race. Some of them are just due to, maybe getting to the start line a little beat up, or if the training hasn't been great. Those are answers that we have for most of these people in terms of, we can see on Strava, most of these people have been running well and getting in good training. But that only tells so much. I mean, like, if we're just going like Strava training blocks, whose were the best? I mean, Scott Traer had a monster training block for this race between Black Canyon and now, like all down out of Phoenix. Was that where it was? He was like 120, 130 miles a week, 100-degree heat, massive long runs, good flat workouts. All of that should equal a really good Western States. But there's always a little bit more to it as well. Arlen Glick, he's the other question mark. He's turning into our male Camille Herron, and that he's just like able to just rattle off good flat 100-mile after
good comparison.
100-mile in like a pretty well executed fashion. This is his first kind of mountainous 100-mile. How's it going to be? I mean, he was down at the training camp runs and did well. He just enjoyed it. I think got in a whole week and has been putting in I think that week of training, he climbed like almost 30,000 feet to go from training for flat hundreds to get up to 30,000 feet of climbing and not break. That's pretty impressive. But does that equal freshness and good execution on race day? Not necessarily.
Arlen Glick is my big question mark. I'm maybe the person that I'm in the first 50 miles of the race most interested in following to see, because he's I had a chance to talk with him, and apparently he considers one of his talents to be not getting caught up in the heat of the moment and what's going on around him. Like he told me that when he was racing Javelina, he was shocked to be in the lead at mile 25 and was pretty adamant saying, I was just running the pace that I had planned to and was expecting to be in like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place at that time. So I'm curious to know what that looks like for him on race day, because it sounds like he's very committed to running within himself on the day.
Like how well does his ability to pace well and run his own race for a flat 100, how well does that equate to a mountainous 100
But
mile?
I think if I want to not guarantee, but put myself in the best position to be somewhere in the middle of the top 10 by the end of the race, I'm following Scott Traer for as long as I can. I think that just, again, the way he raced at Black Canyon, it was extremely textbook. He let the race come to him as opposed to getting caught up with other people in the field. I've heard from people who are close to him that he isn't too psyched out by this race, that it's, quote, just another race, and there are other things he's looking forward to this year. So I don't think he feels any particular weight on his back coming into this race. There's no pressure there. I think that can be a pretty beautiful, liberating space to be in, when Western States for most people is a big deal. There's a lot of pressure to execute. So
for sure. And some people get better under that kind of pressure.
Very true.
There's definitely some gamers. Like, I think, I think Alex Nichols, he keeps coming back to mind of, like, the more important the race is and the bigger it is, like, he's had some of the more successful European races, like, as an American. He's one of the better Americans on the Euro circuit. So, like, he knows what it's like to just, like, have thousands of people screaming at his face and still just do it.
Two names that I want the audience to focus on, and I'd love to hear your two as well before we transition. If you could focus on two people in the men's field, for me, it's John Rea, who won Bandera earlier this year. He's no longer on Strava. I think similar to Jared, he's just in his monastery, focusing on the work, but incredibly, incredibly strong runner. I think that he could turn some heads on race day. I also think Jeff Colt could do the same. I think that Jeff Colt is put in some incredibly strong work. My third person, though, because I'm going to add a third here, is Brett Hornig. And I think that you've had an incredibly, incredibly strong training block. You already have experience at this race, so you know what's required. You're coming off a marathon PR. I think you ran 2:28 at CIM. And I think you're one of the most intelligent racers in the field. Nobody thinks critically about this course quite like you do, or the sport. So I was struggling. You were on my borderline 9, 10, 11 spot. So I don't think people should be surprised at all if our co-host here turns some heads on race day as well.
I mean, that'd be pretty rad. I have so much respect for this field that if I crack into the top 10, it's because a lot of people in front of me are running like idiots. Which, that's on them, not me. And that happens every year. And, I think that also on top of that involves me having pretty much, near perfect day, which, I've fortunately had a good training block and I'm healthy. So, I'm going to given myself now that chance for that to happen. But kind of like I said earlier, like, I was like, if I start creeping up towards that top 10, like, it's not happening until like after mile 90. Cause that's my plan. Like, I'm going to run my race and hit my efforts. And I know that in the first half, that's going to have me being pretty far behind the leaders, and that's okay. Cause that's going to set me up to run my best race. And if people finish in front of me, I'm happy for them. Like, good for them. Like, if I have my best race and people beat me, I'm not upset about that, because at that point I did everything I could to beat them. And if they were just better than me, then they were just better than me. So
who are your top 2 or 3 dark horse racers in the men's field that you think the audience might be interested in following?
Ludo Pomeray, former 2016 UTMB champ, turning into an ageless wonder. I am really curious how he's going to do, because not only has he won UTMB, like, he just the last 2 years at the Grand Raid got second. And many people say that's harder than UTMB, like as much or more climbing, but hot and humid. So, and he's actually run some pretty fast, like, shorter mountain races before. I don't think in quite recent years, but to be able to run that well at the Grand Raid, he might be one to just surprise some people. I don't think 46 means anything to him. Not really a dark horse, but I'm really excited just to see how Tim Tollison's day unfolds. I predicted him to win, but it's going to take, I think whoever wins this race, it is going to take every ounce of energy and passion that they have in their body. Like, nobody is going to win easy this year. Like, it's going to take like a monumental effort. And I think Tim is ready to do that. I'm curious how that's going to unfold, though. At what point will he be in the lead? Who will be around him? What are the ebbs and flows of his race going to be like? So, not a dark horse, but I think, it's going to be a great story because he's always been so fun to follow at, UTMB when, he got third and fourth. So that's a name. The other name that I'm really curious about is Reed Coolset. He's the fastest person in this field.
Yeah.
Like, as good as some of the, like, Hayden and Adam and Cole are. And I mean, Reed's running the low 13. Like, I think he ran 13:20 for 5K. Neither Hayden, Cole, or Adam have run under 13:40, right, I believe, in the 5K. Right. So, like, Reed is the undisputed fastest person. But as of next Saturday, he still will have only been an ultra runner for like 11 months or 10 months.
I'm excited. I just had him on the pod, and I apologize because I just published the episode earlier today. He says his expectations are low, but I think he's only been building these last couple races, learning a lot of important lessons and making mistakes that he might have otherwise made at Western States 3, 4, 5 months ahead. And I like him a lot. I think he's a great guy, in addition to being a talented runner. And I think that's a good one. Also with Tim, I think Tim is mentally at probably the best place in his career. I think he said that, we just did a recent podcast episode with him a couple months back. I encourage folks to listen. He was just forthcoming about that. I think he's in a great place, and that's worth its weight in gold in our sport. So I think those are good ones.
Totally. Yep. Absolutely. I kind of hope that, like, anyone towards the, like, top of the fields in the race this year, like, doesn't listen to this preview episode before the race. For better or worse, like, I just want everyone to, like, show up with their correct mindset. And, like, I don't want all of ours and everyone's, like, media hype to get in the way of anyone racing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think anyone on our list, any of the names, like, I don't think any of them benefit from listening to this episode before States. Like, this is for the fans of the sport.
It's a good disclaimer. I want to ask you one question before we close up here. Given how much you enjoy talking about running shoes, do you think that these new Nike carbon-plated shoes are going to be a difference maker at all in this race?
I think they will at certain parts of the course. So if, say, some of these Nike runners were to wear them for all 100 miles, I don't think that would be beneficial. I think a strategic shoe change, maybe after Forest Hill, not Forest Hill. Well, yes, Forest Hill, but Robinson Flat. I don't think this shoe. Like, you had a lot of Nike runners on your pre-race interviews, and it the official leak, I guess, just went live on Instagram today. It's called the Ultrafly Trail. Yes. June 20th was, like, launch day for Hype. I guess the official Hype day for Nike. It's called the Ultrafly Trail. It's got ZoomX. I think it has a carbon plate in it. It's very smooth. It's very fast. It's very bouncy. is it too bouncy on the first 50K of the course, with some of these rocks? It might be. I think you might need to have some pretty strong ankles. But once you hit some of those more runnable sections, on your way down to the river from Forest Hill or from Robinson Flat to Last Chance, Michigan Bluff to Forest Hill, that shoe would be a lot of fun. So it's kind of a mixed bag. If like Nike people go, 1, 2, 3 on both sides of the race, then like we've got a little bit of a problem, but I don't think that's going to happen. Hoka's like Tecton X is pretty cool. The foam's not quite as bouncy, but it has its own set of features that, maybe make it better than trail shoes of the last year or two. But there's going to only be more continued talk, I think, every year for trail super shoes, or what even makes a trail super shoe. I don't think they know yet.
Right on. Well, man, this has been a ton of fun. We covered a lot of good ground. We got our top 10s in. We got some talk about what it's going to take to win the race. We got some talk in about just what the course looks like, the demands, etc. I think that all the hype is worth it. I think that this is going to be a super exciting year. Selfishly, very excited to watch your race, man. From all of us here at Single Track headquarters, there's exactly one of us. It's just me wanting to wish you good luck on race day. I think you've done everything you need to do to be successful, and I'm sure we'll talk again before that. But just wanted to give you a shout out here on the pod.
Yeah. Hot take before we go. A little bit bummed that I'm running the race, because I don't get to just follow the race and watch the live coverage and see what's going on. Instead, I have to ask my crew how people are doing in front of or around me. I don't get to watch it unfold. But maybe I guess there will be a time and place.
Maybe
for that.
The only person in the race who's asking purely as a fan of the sport and not for competitive reasons where people are in the race.
Just simply because I did that in 2018. I was going through the Cal aid stations at Cal Street, and I was like, does anyone know how Jim was doing? Like, was he breaking? Then the word got that he broke the course record while I'm on my way to the river. And then I just started thinking about how the fact that he was done and was going to go to his hotel and take a shower and go to sleep and come back to the track before I finish.
Oh my gosh. Well, cool. Let's see. Before we go, we will be back, I think, in a week, like a couple days after Western States, with a long run archives episode. I'm stoked for the return of those because it's been a bit. And I think I don't know about you, but I have like a notebook of potential topics for that episode, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, I've definitely got some things written down. I just want to say, good luck to everyone out there. It's going to be a blast, and don't get too caught up in how exciting everything is in the first bit. It's a long day. You've got plenty of time to have your best day out there. And to all the crew members and volunteers and race officials, like, take care of yourselves out there as well, because it's going to be 100 degrees for everybody out there.
Awesome. All right, Brett, good luck out there. I'll see you in a week for our next show.
Thanks, Vin. See ya.